What's the difference between T121 and T88? These are both cut and color bars. They're used primarily with a cutting buff, such as an orange buff or even a yellow buff, to cut and polish aluminum in the first stage of metal finishing. The difference between these two bars is noticeable. The T121 is actually a coarser cutting bar, meaning that it's got not only the coarse ground Tripoli powder, but it also has an added measure of coarse cut grain that we add in there for a faster and more aggressive cut. Now, the difference between the T121 and the T88, along with the difference in the grain structure, actually has to do with binders. Now, what are binders? Binders essentially are the fats that hold all the grain together and turn it into a bar. And different binders have different melting points. So you've got stuff on the lower end of the melting point spectrum, such as tallow, basically beef fat. Stuff at the other end of the spectrum, such as white wax and of course stearic acid, which is a industrial form of coconut oil to make it simple, have higher melting points, and they will react differently with different speeds and different frictions and different metals. The T121 has technically a higher melting point setup, so that's why you will find it maybe in the summer months or in those environments where it's very humid, a more user-friendly bar, because it has a higher melting point. It won't be as tacky and it won't be as soft as the T88. The T88, however, not to say is a lower quality bar, on the contrary, it's also a very high quality bar. But the difference essentially is the T88 is more of a finishing bar. So you've got more of a cut and finish with this bar because of the different compositions of the cutting grains. Also, because it's got a lower melting point, it tends to coat the buff and coat the metal that you're polishing a lot easier, and that allows for some ease of use when you're polishing and you're cutting out your sanding lines. So whether you're using a T121 because it's got a slightly coarser cut, or because it may be a little easier to use during a hot summer day, versus the T88, which has got the ability to coat your buffing wheel and finish a little bit finer for you. They're both great compounds. Decide which one makes the most sense for you and go with it.